Well, good evening and welcome to the first of our new Kase Filters Global's monthly interviews. We're going to be talking to some top photographers every single month, Kase ambassadors, and delighted to be here tonight. Whoops, I'm getting a second feed down there. Sorry, let me just switch myself off. I've got a double. There we go. I'm away. You guys are still here though. Matt, Paul, and Tom. Sorry about that. First time teething problems. We have got these three guys from the Landscape Photography Vlogcast, and I'm going to introduce you to them in just a moment, but delighted to have them with us for our first ever session. Just some basic things first of all. I'm sure most of you have done these kind of things before. Facebook Live, we're also on YouTube as well. There is a live chat box in both locations. If you want to ask the guys questions through the night, then do please feel free to use those. We'll be keeping an eyeball on them. And there is a little bit of a delay just between punching in questions and coming to us, so don't worry if there's a wee gap there. So do use them. Let us know where you're joining in from. It's always fabulous to find that out. And finally, if you would like to rewatch or if you would like to share this with anybody at the end, you can do that. Both YouTube and Facebook Live should appear just after we finished, so feel free to use that. I'll remind you, of course, later on as well. So as I said, I'm here with a team from the Landscape Photography Vlogcast. In the top right, we have got Tom, who's chosen not to give us his surname. I think he's trying to be deliberately mysterious. Photo Ninja, also known as Tom, that's you.
Tom Peters.
Thomson here with us, 1/3 of the team. We've got Paul Thomson down in the bottom corner there with the funky green background going on. Paul's put a bit of effort in, I gotta say, Paul. Thank you for bothering.
You're welcome. Thank you for bothering.
And Matt's bothered. Matt's actually down in Italy. I say down, depending where you are. So a little bit later than it is if you're watching in the UK. So yeah, Matt's definitely put a lot of effort in. And that makes up the three guys of the vlogcast, which I'm sure most of you have listened to. That's probably why you're in here, but it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking very much forward to chatting to you guys, because not only are you photographers, which is interesting enough for our chat, but you're also fellow kind of chatters. So I know we were talking just at the beginning that it's a bit odd to, who's going to actually take control of the chat. You're used to doing it yourselves. Tonight the tables are turned a little bit. So looking forward to finding out a bit more. I'm going to be asking a bunch of questions. As I said, guys, use the chat. Ask some questions in there. There's Serge already saying hi, and some other people as well. So, I mean, the vlogcast, guys, you guys obviously always start off with this question. I know Tom always kind of takes the mix slightly, but just for people maybe that don't know you that well, why don't we just start kind of individually telling us a little bit about yourself, where you're based, and maybe just how you got into photography, just kind of briefly. Tom, do you want to go first?
Yeah, my name is Tom, and most of you, I suppose, will know me as Photo Ninja on YouTube. But my photography journey, started mainly when I was living down in Cornwall. About sort of 10 years ago, I moved. 8 years ago, it's when I picked a camera up in a serious capacity. Well, with the intent of being serious, anyway. And I've always been interested in videography and sort of editing. I'm very outdoorsy. So the three things just sort of come in, work together nicely. I lived in Bude for 10 years, so I knew the area quite well, and seascape photography is just my happy place. You can't go to the sea and not be inspired. So yeah, that's where it all started. But now I'm living back in Wiltshire, where I originated from, and now you can't get me out of the woods. The woods is now my new happy place. So yeah, and here we are now with the vlogcast. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come back obviously to the vlogcast in a little bit. And I should also say, actually, just before I start, there is going to be a competition running tonight to win some fantastic Kase goodies. So the guys are going to be telling you about that a little bit later on, but we'll hold off on that just now. Paul, how about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm originally from the northeast, so I'm across from Bamborough and Alnwick sort of area. And I guess I got into photography when I was a kid, really. but then I drifted away from it because I wasn't getting the immediate results like you want to as a kid.
Yeah.
I had in my mind's eye what I wanted and couldn't achieve it at the time. So I drifted away from it and then came back to it maybe 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started to seriously get into it and learn a lot more about it.
Do you remember your first camera as a kid? Was it a
did.
film or was
I've got it here. Look
You've
at
got it?
Let's see if you can. That's
There it is.
That's a rip
Olympus.
snorter, isn't it? Jeez.
Yeah,
Nice.
Olympus
Wow.
point and shoot thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That was the first one I had, digital. But yeah, really wanted to get into it more seriously, so progressed from there. And this last 10 years, I've just thrown everything at it, to be honest, and live and breathe it at the minute.
Yeah,
That's
well,
it.
we'll dig into that a little bit later on. Matt, you're based in Italy, I believe, but definitely do not have the Italian accent. What's your story?
No, I don't. No. I'm Australian.
Mhm.
I moved over to Europe when I was 22 years old. So I finished university and did the thing that all the Aussies do. They go and travel and go and see the world. And I put my backpack on and met an Italian. And a year later, I ended up here in Italy. And I've kind of been here pretty much since. So yeah, my story of photography is as soon as I arrived in Europe, I was just blown away by these massive mountains. Especially, I spent 3 months hiking through Switzerland and was incredibly blown away what I saw. And after that holiday, I moved to London and I went and bought a camera straight away. I bought a Pentax in London. A Pentax, obviously a film camera back in those days. And I started taking a bit of landscape, bit of travel, bit of everything. And not very far into it, I realized that landscape was for me. And it's just been a slow evolution over the years. I've never got addicted to it, but probably the last 2 or 3 years, it's turning into an addiction. Yeah, that's for sure.
I noticed Tom sniggering there when you mentioned a film camera. Tom, don't tell me that your first camera was actually a smartphone or something. I'm guessing are you the youngest of the bunch?
Yeah,
There's
he's
not
yeah.
much in it, is there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, he's very young, aren't you, mate? Compared to us
well-
old buggers, aren't you? Yeah.
well, yeah, I can't remember what the first camera was actually. It wasn't a smartphone. No, mate. It was. I can't really remember. It would have been like an old little, like kind of like what Paul's is, like a
Like a point and shoot.
Point and
Yeah.
shoot.
I think it might have been a
Yeah.
Sony Cybershot actually, something like that. I can't remember. Yeah.
Not so very old. You're making me right. Okay, let's move on very quickly from that. So the Landscape Photography Vlogcast, guys. I mean, it's spring 2020, I believe, that you guys started this, which obviously is memorable for many other reasons, not least the beginning of the lockdowns and so forth. I mean, how did it come about? Was it to do with COVID and lockdown stuff like that? How did the whole thing, how did it come about in the first place?
Yeah, that was pretty much the reason for it, wasn't it, Tom?
Yeah, pretty much.
We'd started talking and chatting about doing things together, for a while. And then when obviously the unmentionable happened, we started with the idea of coming up with a podcast, something we could do regularly, just because obviously we couldn't get out and shoot, restricted movements and all the rest of it. So we wanted to be able to put some form of content out, and the vlogcast was what we came up with.
So how did you guys meet? Paul and Tom, you two started this, is that right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. In the modern way, we never actually met in person
No, we did it.
till not that while ago, not long ago.
Have you met in person? No.
Yeah,
we have.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times now we have met in person.
Yeah, we have. Yeah. But yeah, it was like I liked Paul's stuff, and I'm assuming he liked my stuff, and we just started chatting.
I tolerate it.
Never said otherwise.
Yeah. We just
that's basically where it came from. We just kind of started this relationship and then thought it would be good to work together a lot better. So that's what we came up with, really. And then we brought Matt along for the ride.
So when did you come into the mix, Matt?
When did I come into the mix? Oh, geez. Was it about 6 months ago? A bit more, maybe?
Yeah, I think probably a bit more. Probably a bit more.
Just brought it up that kind of extra level, did you?
No, I don't know. I honestly didn't bring it up an extra level at all. It probably made it go downhill a little bit.
Yeah.
Look, I listened to the guys' podcast a few times. I enjoy podcasts in general, especially when you've got that, that dead time where you might be, in your car for an hour and you're stuck in traffic. It's a great way to keep your mind spinning over with photography. You always pick up new ideas and all that sort of stuff. So I always listen to a lot of podcasts, and I heard the guys' podcasts, and I thought, like, hang on, I know those guys, and then I went and looked up on social media and said, oh yeah, Paul, Tom, yeah, I've seen them on YouTube and all that sort of stuff, and I thought, oh, that's fantastic. And then I noticed there was a bit of a pause in between podcasts. And I remember saying to Paul, I said, hey, have you stopped doing your podcast, have you? And he's like, oh, no, we're just getting around to it. And I just said, oh, it's a shame. You should keep doing it because you guys are fantastic. And the next thing you know, I got on and did an interview with these guys. And I don't know what happened from there. How did it all evolve?
Yeah, we haven't stopped talking.
This was still the interview. We're just
yeah, it's just a very long interview, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it was the idea came to, I guess it was me really, and I said to Tom at the time, do you think it would be a good idea so the three of us could work together? Because there was nobody else doing it. There was nobody else doing like a group podcast kind of situation. And Matt's a good talker, so it means there's less work for me and Tom to do, basically. And the thing is, we work really well as a threesome. I think we bounce off each other really well. And I think that's what it came down to. I said to Tom, "Do you think we should get him involved?" And he was well up for it. So that's what it came about.
I mean, I noticed that I've listened to some of the podcasts. Your first one, obviously, you started straight off with guests. Was that always the intention, or was the intention maybe to chat amongst the pair of you, the three of you, or was it always a case of let's get somebody in and get some kind of wisdom from different voices in the kind of sector?
Well, I think we kind of took people that we already knew at the start and brought those people in. We just kind of used people that we were already friends with and already knew that we could bring into it, because we'd never done it before. So we didn't really know which direction to go in. So I think for us, it was kind of using the people that were already in our circles.
Yeah, I mean, you started off with the Irish podcast guys who are obviously
boys,
and a nice thing to start off with, because very, very natural talkers and kind of makes it nice and easy going forward. I mean, what makes a good guest?
Good question.
Yeah, talkers, obviously
one.
someone who can talk, but I mean, if you're interviewing, several landscape photographers in a row, obviously everyone's different. Everyone brings something a little bit different. But is there something that just makes it easier to chat to someone? What makes an interview go on for an hour and a half, 2 hours, as opposed to you struggling at 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think when they talk about something different, everyone's got a different story to tell, and when someone's got that story to tell that's different than someone else's, it's always interesting to hear their perspective of it. And yeah, obviously talking is very important, isn't it? There are some great photographers out there, and unfortunately you couldn't get on a podcast because they're very shy and they don't want to tell people much about their personal life. It's great for the podcast too to hear some information about people's personal life, because it makes you understand sort of their mindset and how they arrived to where they are today. But a lot of people are very private, so it is important. Yeah, it's important to be able to tell a story for sure.
Yeah, people with passion. I think that's what makes the difference. You can tell the people that have got a passion for it because they can talk for hours about it.
Definitely.
And you don't have to put the effort in to kind of coerce answers out of them. They're just giving you everything they've got, and that's what makes a really good guest, I think.
Sorry, on you go. No, on you go, Matt.
I was just going to say, you look at Enrico Fossati when we got him on. We had to divide it into 2 podcasts because the guy spoke for that long. And normally he's actually quite a shy person. So it just goes to show you, doesn't it? Yeah.
But I think it's also the way we do it as well. We don't go for a formal kind of interview style. We kind of like to make it work like we're just mates sitting down having a chat.
Yeah.
We don't want to make it formal. That's what sets us apart, I think.
It's like-minded. It's fellow landscape lovers getting together and just chatting naturally, right?
Like we're having a beer at the pub. We haven't seen each other well. We get together and say, "Hey, let's chat about photography," which is probably what we do anyway, even if we did go to a pub together. To be honest,
definitely.
I mean, you mentioned Enrico. Do you have any particularly memorable guests over the past couple of years that kind of stick out for you?
For me, I think my favourite guest, I don't want to offend any other guests we've had, was Victoria Hack was someone
Yeah,
I
she was great.
really, to be fair, I never even thought like we would ever get someone like Victoria to come on, because none of us really sort of known her at a personal level. So, but yeah, she was just amazing just to hear. Put a story to the images that you see on the internet. Oh, yeah.
And she was really nervous about coming on. That was
She
amazing.
was very
she?
nervous,
She was
and she
really
is
nervous.
actually a very reserved person.
Yeah.
Originally, when I contacted her about it, because I've known her for quite a few years now,
Yeah.
and she was very, and I said, "Come on, you know what it's like to talk to me. It'll be easy, And I sort of almost convinced her into it, pretty much. But once she got on, we started a few laughs. It's one thing getting on a podcast and being very formal, but when you get on with us, I think you understand. After a minute into the conversation, it's just like having a chat, at the pub, like we said.
And people enjoy that. People enjoy kind of delving into a natural conversation and almost being a fly on the wall. I mean, Victoria, obviously she's not a pure landscape photographer, so I guess initially, maybe she's not sure, maybe you're not entirely sure how it's going to go, but I mean, I listened to that one and she brought so much to it. She was talking about doing other things, from weddings to portraits to all sorts of different things. Was that unexpected for you, the fact that you were going off piste a little bit with that, but still she brought so much? I mean, it's a different way of thinking, isn't it? You kind of think, right, landscape, let's get landscape people in. But actually, what did she bring to that for you guys in terms of the kind of variety of things that she does, and how does that actually, how did that help you?
Well, she's different. That's what I liked about her. I was excited about getting her on, is because she does put animals, people in the landscape when not many people do. They're not like she crosses them genres like perfectly for
portraits,
me. Environmental. And I was excited to hear and get her on because she is, like you said, she's slightly different. So yeah, I thought it made it a little bit easier, if anything, a bit more exciting, because it just mixes things up a little bit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, and she is a woman as well, and it's nice to get more women. The idea was we wanted to mix it up and keep it sort of diverse, and she's a fantastic photographer. Happens to be a woman, and yeah, it's just good to get different types of people on.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like people. I think people want that, like you say, but in the landscape photography world, there's just not a huge amount of women doing, I guess, what Victoria does. And yeah, no, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed listening to her. Obviously, you guys do the podcast. Collaboration is something that you really value. A lot of landscape photographers. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of solo style people. They enjoy their own company. They enjoy going out in the hills on their own, stuff like that. I mean, have you guys ever gone out together? I know, Paul and Tom, you said you've met a couple of times.
Yeah,
in reality, you guys shooting together.
We've got plans to, but obviously things have changed up somewhat. We're all gonna go to Italy this January. Actually, we were gonna go to Italy and go and shoot, but that's maybe gonna get put off for a couple months, maybe. We'll see how it goes, but that's
hopefully no more than a couple of months.
I mean, is that something that you enjoy? Do you enjoy going out with other photographers and that whole kind of collaborative learning from other people thing, or is it, as a rule, you just enjoy going out on your own and being in the great outdoors? What's the attraction?
I think it's mixed, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I love going out on my own. Don't get me wrong, and it is my thing, that I enjoy, where I can switch off. But at the same time, it's nice to do it with someone else that feels that feeling that you feel. And again, it doesn't feel like a chore or an inconvenience when you're with someone that's, you turn around, they're gone because they're you stop the car again.
Another 20 minutes.
Everybody knows that feeling, don't they?
That was the thing with us as well, though, is that's one of the things that we really wanted to get across, is it doesn't just have to be like a solo enterprise. You can get much. You can get so much by working with other people.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of people like to be on their own. I like to have my own space, but I think it's so important to have that sort of collaborative space where you can all get together and learn from each other and just have fun with it. I think that's part of the problem. There's a lot of people want to do the solo thing, and they don't. How do I put this nicely? They don't want to get
careful.
It's like it's about having fun, a lot of it, and some of the fun gets sucked out of it, which is why that we thought the best way to go about it is to work together as a team. You get more out of it together than you would on your own, and basically we can give far more if we work as a team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're obviously all at different stages in your journeys. I'm guessing Tom's been going, well, obviously years, Tom, but the least in terms of age, and they're able to bring, I guess, different things that you've learned along the way, and to learn from each other, and obviously the guests and stuff that you've got in. I know, I'm not sure about you, Matt. You guys have got YouTube channels as well, is that right?
Yeah, all of us.
Yeah, you do. And again, obviously, go out and about on your own, take the camera and essentially the audience along with you, but you also take guests out and do that. I mean, I've spoken to a few landscape photographers, and most people now are doing YouTube. I mean, is that something that you think, is it something you want to be doing, or do you think it's something now that you actually have to do as a landscape photographer to actually, it's a hard thing to make money from, as opposed to commercial photography. Landscape is very different. You do your workshops, prints, if you can do them these days. Do you think YouTube is kind of that third thing that you actually almost have to do nowadays?
Go, Matt. You go, Matt.
No.
I was just going to say, for me, it's about getting more people involved. And I mean, if you want to get more people on workshops and you want to sell more prints and do all the rest of it, I think YouTube's kind of your way to get your message out to those potential clients, as well as the fact that I enjoy doing it. I do enjoy doing it as well. It's not just like purely for marketing purposes, but it is a brilliant tool for that.
It is hard work, though. I mean, you guys do the podcast, vlogging on YouTube. I know from experience is a huge amount of work.
It certainly is,
combined with anything else. I mean, how do you fit it all in? Is it just you just think I've got to do this? Do you do weekly? I mean, each of you. I know. Is it Tom? You do one every week, every Sunday or something?
Every Sunday morning. Yeah.
Now I've just started doing it every week as well. For the last 6 or 7 weeks, I think I've gone more seriously into it. So.
And do you go out? I mean, I know, Paul, I think you went out, you were up in Scotland recently, I think, actually, and you can, I guess you can do a few things together there and split it up and put it out over the weeks. But how do the rest of you guys do that normally? Do you actually go out every week for the show, or how does that work?
Do you want to go, Matt?
Well, I'm very, very different with my YouTube channel. I only use my YouTube channel kind of when I feel like it. I don't feel obliged to use it, and as you could see from my channel that it's not a serious channel. I just use it as another way of just sometimes people want to see what I'm up to, so I put it out there. But it's for me, it's not a dedicated form of an income to begin with, or anything else for that matter. It's just purely another tool to show people. I think it's important, especially when you're doing workshops and things, that people can actually access more information about you. You can see who you are, because sometimes it's nice for people to have a familiar face and say, hey, you know what, I'm 100% confident.
I like his style.
I'm going to go with you.
Nice.
Yeah. So for me, it's very, very different than Paul and Tom YouTube, that's for sure.
So Paul, you were up in Scotland. You did a whole batch of stuff together. I mean, have you put most of that out now, or is that have you still got some footage ongoing?
I've still got one left, which I'm going to start on tomorrow. Yeah, I've got one left, and that's me done. I was up there for 3 weeks, so I had 3 weeks worth of content to work through. I probably would have had more if it hadn't rained for 3 weeks.
I was going to say, it's still raining. Don't worry. It's been raining for the last 26 weeks or something.
Yeah. But I've got the last one to go through, and then that's me.
How about you, Tom?
Well, I was lucky enough to go on that little trip just for the weekend. I've obviously used all my content up from when I went up to see Paul and that. I what I do is I tend to be at least a week ahead, obviously. I've got a week to edit the image. Well, edit the images if there's more than one, which it normally is, and then do the video. And I tend to try and get the video done by Friday night, but it doesn't always work out.
That's
that
for a
way.
Sunday morning
For a
video
Sunday
release.
morning, yeah. The last
Okay.
2 weekends, I've been up till 1, trying to get my video out. But I am sort of 3 weeks ahead now, so
Wow,
yeah.
well done.
I know, like recently, I haven't been very well with the dreaded. I'm not mentioning it, but so I haven't been able to go out. So luckily, I have had stuff to fall
Silver
back on.
lining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the general process, is to get at least 1-2 weeks ahead, and then the pressure's off a little bit. Then you're just riding it. You're just, as long as you keep going out, you've always got stuff to
Always got something to
put out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you guys have interviewed all sorts of different people, and I know everyone tries to be authentic to themselves. But are you inspired by any photographers when it comes to, you know, either their shooting style or maybe even things like their work ethic and stuff like that? And, you know, people you've interviewed or other people in general.
Yeah.
Anyone spring to mind? Maybe even in the past. I know there's a lot of Ansel Adams fans out there who, you know, was the kind of initial springboard for a lot of landscape photographers.
Yeah. Mine was probably Michael Kenner for my photography side of things. I just liked the way his images were different. But video side of things and sort of more current photographer is probably Adam Gibbs, I would say. It was someone that I look towards after seeing him on YouTube. It's someone that I've sort of would like to inspire. I inspire myself to be in his way, his thought process. I like the way he looks at things. And every time I go out, I do try and slow down and sort of just take it all in before I press, even get the camera out. Like,
yeah. Have a look around first. How about you, Matt?
Well, I mean, look, earlier on into photography, I mean, most of the listeners that are on here tonight that know us on the podcast will know, you know, probably my favorite photographer is Joe Cornish. Also because I followed his work very early on into photography, and back in the film day, you know, they didn't have digital, the technology available. So they were craftsmen, weren't they, to be able to pull off the images that they got back then. A few Australian photographers that not many people that have heard of much, like Ken Duncan, for example. So a lot of the old school photographers, as far as modern photographers go, for me, it's different. There's probably not one photographer in say the modern digital era that I say for me, that guy's like the best photographer. I tend to like to pick little bits from everybody and try and use that. Well, I have over the years to try and get a little bit of a technique from Joe Blow and a little bit from this guy here and a little bit from her, and sort of blend it in together into my own style that's sort of evolved over the years. But yeah, definitely earlier on there wasn't as many photographers out there, and the ones that were there were true craftsmen for sure. And I think we need to give those older school photographers a huge credit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, speaking of film, do any of you guys shoot film just now?
No.
I've actually still got a roll of Fuji Valvia in my old
from 1986
reflex camera. I think I shot about 12, and there's still. I think it might be expired now though. It's been a good 12 years or something. But
you might get a good funky. People seem to like shooting on expired film. It's a thing now, isn't it? Get that one developed. Paul, sorry, I didn't go to you, Paul. How about you in terms of people that maybe inspire you?
Well, it's a difficult one because I guess it's partly the same as.
Why are you struggling?
Matt,
they're all around
inspiration,
you.
Matt. Honestly, mate.
You're going red. You're going red. He's afraid, isn't he? Because
no, so I'm good friends with Adam Gibbs, and I have been for a few years now, and he's been like a mentor to me as well. So I've learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from his style of photography. But somebody that I didn't know about until we did the podcast actually was Enrico Fossati, who Matt introduced us to.
One day, Matt. We'll come back in a couple of years, and Matt Bishop was my inspiration.
There you go.
He really is. He does inspire me most days, mate. To be honest, he does. But yeah, Enrico is just. I just love his work. I love the dark feel of his images, which I hadn't seen him before until we got him on the podcast. But yeah, he's just got that sort of image that really appealed to me.
Yeah. Post-production, Matt, I think I read a comment from you recently that said you spent 10 hours editing this one particular picture. I mean, if, for the three of you, what's your kind of general take on post-production? Is it like a light touch or, you know, artistic license, depending on what you're going for? What's your kind of general take on it? Tom, how about you?
I don't have many rules. I always try to shoot and with the intention of showing what I saw, and that is when you take a video camera out with you, obviously that you are putting yourself out on a plate, because if I walk around the forest and it's a bright blue sky and there's no atmosphere, and then I produce an image that's got loads of mist and you just get found out really easily. So I always try to be true. I'm very laid back and chilled, and I am what I am. So yeah, I don't put anything in. I will sometimes remove things if it's, I don't know, like a branch, or I don't see a crisp packet that someone's left in the corner. I'll obviously take things like that out. In terms of how
Paul's
I process it, Paul's head, camera bag or something like that, I'll remove it.
Shopping trolley.
But yeah, I the last couple of years, say 3 years maybe, I've really got into luminosity masks and Photoshop, and I think being more of a woodland photographer sort of brought that on. And the possibilities for doing anything artificially obviously is there. But yeah, at the moment I do tend to edit my images a lot more heavily than I used to. I don't know whether that's just my personal development at the moment. It'll probably change. But yeah, I still try to keep things straight and narrow, with a little bit of my own flair on it. But yeah, I am a strong believer in artistic license. If I've done something, I'll say I've done it.
I was going to say, is that something in terms of, like, you know, the ethics of actually saying what you've done to an image? That's something you believe in? Yeah,
I did it recently, a couple of videos back. And actually I got this little tip from Matt about using contrast and layers in Photoshop, and
he needs a lot of encouragement, Matt. Just keep feeding that.
Just joking.
But yeah, I used several layers and decreased the contrast and made it sort of feel ethereal. But yeah, I come out and said that's what I've done, and that's what I liked for this image.
Paul, how about you?
Pretty much the same, if I'm honest. I'll try and keep it as natural as possible. I haven't, to be honest, I never really used Photoshop for anything other than healing objects before. It's all Matt's fault that I use it more than I did before.
Is it really?
Yeah. Jeez. Well, I've learned more from you about Photoshop. Nothing that's, it's no huge, controversy about it. I just use it more than I ever used to, because I just find it easier to use now than I was always sticking to Lightroom for my global edits, but I just find on Photoshop I can get much more detailed edits. Again, I won't put anything in. I'll take stuff out though. I don't have a problem with, taking items out that I'm not happy with being there. But I'm not one for stretching mountain peaks or adding rainbows on unicorns to everything. So it's
sky replacements.
I never do it. Not that I have anything against people who do it. It's perfectly fine. Absolutely perfectly fine, as long as they kind of tell people that's what they've done. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a problem with sky replacements with people that'll actually take a shot for the sky and a shot for the foreground and blend them, because to me it's the same shot. They've just got to it a different way. But taking a sky from California and putting it in a sky from Scotland, well, that's slightly different.
Well, you're going to know straight away. Blue sky, that's not authentic.
Oh yeah, it's true. That's for sure.
How about yourself, Matt?
Yeah, look, I love my grand landscapes, but not just the average grand landscape with many elements included into it. So whether it's a mountain with a storm in the background, with some flowers in the foreground, or a waterfall, or a river running through it, I like lots of elements in the grand landscape, and I am a big believer that the raw images that we capture they capture all the information. So all the information is there, and it's our job to bring that information out of a raw image to bring that image back to life. So I am 99.9% true in what I do with my images. So what I'm doing to my image is actually information that is stored in that raw image. So it's my objective to slowly work on these elements. Each element of a grand landscape has varying tones. It has varying white balance, luminosity, sharpness, the way that our eye actually sees an image. Obviously the things in the foreground are sharper than they are in the background. So I don't believe in having an image sharp from front to back. Everything has to sort of blend with how our eye goes. So between what my eye saw, what the raw image captured, when you do get these big grand landscapes, they do take a long time to work on, and I love it. Put the headphones on, bit of music, and just disappear into another world, another dimension.
Does music help you do that? I mean, I've chatted to a few people who say there's certain things they like to put on, either even orchestral music, certain things depending on what they're working on. That helps you?
Definitely, yeah. There's specific styles of music that I listen to that inspires me to get that creative thing going. Send a few links to Paul in the past. He knows about that.
I'm just thinking back to Enrico, who edits to heavy metal.
I know.
Just
whatever works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but he's got that dark feel of his images, so it goes. It goes.
Does work.
He does. Yeah.
Got moving chicane in the chat saying he has actually removed a shopping trolley from an image before. It was down in a ravine below a waterfall and couldn't be seen with the naked eye, so he pulled that one out. So, I think everybody would probably do that. Matt, you mentioned you love grand landscapes. Obviously, you live in Italy. I know you shoot a lot of the Apennine Mountains in Italy. Yeah, I mean, do you have a favorite location? Is it where you are, or is there like a bucket list kind of spot somewhere you'd really, really like to go and shoot?
Look, I'm forever always discovering new places all the time. And although I do live in Italy and I'm from Australia, for me, number one's Patagonia. I'm very, very passionate about that place, and I've got a very, very strong connection with Patagonia for sure.
Have you been out there a few times?
Yeah, twice. Yeah, been out there twice on. So I've probably spent a total of about 3 months in Patagonia.
Wow.
Looking back on it, so it's quite a long time.
And is it the kind of thing you take people out with you? Do you do workshops out there, or is that kind of a solo? You just want to go out for yourself for a couple months?
First time I was out there, went on a solo trip with my wife, and we just spent there just over a month, just traveling everywhere really. And I bought a camera with me back then. That was 2011 or 2012. First time I went out there, and it wasn't so much on the map with regard to photography. And photography really. Social media it had really started to take off a lot, didn't it then? It was only just the beginning. So there wasn't too many images of Patagonia. So I took a camera with me, but, I wanted it to be a holiday for myself and for my wife and not concentrate on the photography. So I always promised myself I'd go back.
Yeah.
And so the next time I went back, I did a workshop there.
Best of both worlds.
For sure. And loved every second of it. And unfortunately with COVID, that's been put on hold at the moment.
Yeah, we'll get back. We will get back. Serge in the chat there saying he uses ambient classical music for editing woodland images. Tom, is that something that you've ever done? Do you do that? Do you put some nice kind of sedate music under your woodland editing?
No, I don't really. I'm a bit boring with my editing. I just like to sit and be quiet. I don't know. I don't know why.
Because you enjoy your own company too much, mate. You like just disappearing in your own thoughts, don't you?
Yeah, I must admit, the one thing I do tend to do is I'm really into my whiskey, and I tend to.
That's why.
Yeah, I tend to just sit in my office. It's nice and quiet.
Yeah, just
it's up
drink
right,
whiskey.
right on top of our third floor. I'd say to my missus, "I'm going up to do some some editing." No,
Going upstairs to do yoga. Yeah.
Glug, glug, glug,
Yeah.
glug.
no, yeah, I just.
Matt's
just
the one who's
pour-
constantly taking the cup. I'm not sure what's in there. He's laughing. But it
No,
could be
this
anything.
is just it's boring. It's green tea. Yeah.
Oh.
I had a big dinner. It's helping me digest. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. Tom, bucket list location for you?
Ooh, I think for me, seascape wise, I'd love to shoot the Oregon coast.
Mm.
I would love to shoot that. That if I'm thinking seascapes, I'm thinking there. If woodland wise, I know it's a bit different to the ancients, but I would love to go and shoot like the redwoods and the big old tree just for scale. I just want to see go there and just try and capture the scale of them. So they're two places I would like to go and shoot for sure.
Are you based mostly, Tom, in just to kind of round about where you are just now down in England? Have you travelled at all for photography?
No, only to Scotland. I go to Dorset Coast quite a lot because that's only an hour from me now. Like I said, I've been to Scotland with Paul. Plan on doing more trips up there. But yeah, I must admit, I haven't really travelled. Well, none of us have travelled. I'm going to blame it on that.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
half of my family all live in Stirling and places like that, so we used to go and see them all the time. I just haven't been up there as much as I wanted to. But yeah, no, I live in Wiltshire, so I've just immersed myself in the ancient woodlands we've got here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Paul, how about you? Anywhere in particular that you'd really quite like to go and take your camera?
I want to go back to Canada. That's where I want to go back to. I spent a bit of time on Vancouver Island and got a taste of it there, and it's just beautiful. I love the way the place looks. It looks so wild, and that's what I really like to go for, is the wild out there places. And there's loads of places in Canada I just want to go and explore, really.
So wild weather as well, or just kind of the big, wild, grand landscapes?
Both, I think.
Do you like going out? And obviously, we're in Scotland, and wild weather's a given. But
you've just got to get used to wild weather, haven't you?
Plastic bag over your camera and go for it.
Shower cap. That's what I use.
Shower caps,
Top tips, people. Top tips.
Yeah, I like the wild weather as well as the wild landscapes. But it's actually that's why I'm attracted to Scotland, because the Lake District's on my doorstep, but I'm more attracted to going to Scotland than I am the Lake District, because it's got that wilder feel to it, whereas the Lakes is more manicured.
It's a bit more sedate. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the more wild places, basically.
Yeah. I do love to see a wild landscape photograph, but there you see very few in actual wild weather, which is understandable. You know, you don't want to damage your kit and stuff, but it's fantastic when you actually do see those shots where people are maybe out and it is sleeting or raining, or there's a big rainstorm just over there, and you know they've made the effort to go up anyway. But yeah, dramatic shots. I mean, maybe a bit more locally then for you guys. Do you have any shots that are kind of, you know, on your planning board, for want of a better term, shots that you've seen and you think that'll work really well in winter or in this particular condition or anything like that? Is there anything that you've been working on, and how long have you been working on it? Matt, you're nodding. How about you?
So you're referring to a place that I would like to go to.
A place
that I've seen an image of.
Yeah, no, more locally. I'm saying, is there somewhere maybe that you've been and you've thought this is going to work really well in a different condition?
Definitely.
I will come back then and try and make the shot work.
Well, we've got one of the guys in the chat tonight, Luigi Nesbecker. He's an Italian photographer who knows the Apennine Mountains very, very well. He's a mountaineer, and he spends at least 1 day per week up in the Apennine area, a couple of hours out of Rome, in a place called Abruzzo. And that is the wildest part of Italy. And I've been following his work, and I've been up and had a couple of times scouting on these locations and seeing his work. I actually can't wait to go up there with him and capture these locations with that wild weather, that dark sort of those storms and definitely for me locally, that is a place of very big inspiration and something I've constantly thinking about.
Tom, you obviously shoot a lot of woodland, and mist and things like that are kind of what every woodland photographer loves. Is there a shot in your head right now that you think it'll work? You've got the trees in the right place, but it just needs those right conditions.
Oh yeah, my phone is my Google Maps is. I can't really see much map. All I can see is red pins everywhere.
Pins.
Yeah, I've probably got 20 or 30 trees that I know now where they are, and the closest place to park my car. Yeah, it's just working your way through them really, and the hardest bit I find about stuff like that is you have to walk past about 6 of the trees that are good, but this might be better.
Yeah.
And you have to make the decision whether you're going to walk past and
miss the
possibly
shot
miss.
potentially. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly miss and end up with nothing. But yeah, that's a part of the fun. Yeah, but yeah, I've got loads of trees that I want to shoot. Yeah.
I mean, that is part of it, isn't it? It's kind of finding something and actually going back even, 3, 4, 5, in the winter or whatever it is. And actually, I mean, is that, it's not something that bores you. It's something you kind of think is part of the challenge of landscape photography.
It is.
Long-termness of it.
The planning gives you something to look forward.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Like I've shot loads of the trees that I like. And I just think it's my own personal way I am is I always think I can take a better one of the same scene. But yeah, I think we don't get a huge amount of snow here. So when snow falls, that's quite a big excitement for me. It's thinking I can get something really different that all the other photographers in the local area haven't got. Because there's probably a handful of photographers that live within 10 miles of me that take awesome images, and it's hard to stand out. So yeah, if we ever got some snow, we get a lot of hoarfrost as well. Yeah, that's the time to get in the woods and stand out. Yeah, for sure.
Paul, how about you? Anything that's kind of been on your mind for a while that you're planning on going back to?
Well, I'm quite lucky, really. I've got lots on my doorstep. I've got there's rivers not too far from here that run down the mountains, not far from my back door, really. And I watch those for how much water's in them, really, because water flow. If I want to get a decent waterfall image or something like that, it's all sort of linked to how much water's in there. Sometimes it doesn't work, so I can keep going back. And these sort of locations that you can go back to are some of the most valuable, to be honest, because you learn a lot more from them.
Yeah.
And again, definitely. Along the same section of river, I've got a lot of trees as well that I've photographed in the past and got back and edited them and thought that would look better with, either mist and fog or
different composition.
Yeah. This is it. And you can just tweak things and know that you can get back to them pretty quick.
I mean, talking about woodlands and rivers, and I think I know at least a couple of you are part of Nature First. I mean, when it comes to, say you've seen a shot, Tom, in the woods, and you think, right, bluebells are going to be here soon. This is the shot I want. I mean, what comes first for you? Would you trample? Would you pick your way through some bluebells to get the shot? Or, what's more important? Is it the shot, or is it actually, if I have to break that branch off, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to just try and find a different composition.
Do you know what? There's 2 woodlands that I always frequent, and one of them is a beach woodland, and it is the bluebells. It's quite famous. I chat to photographers every year that come from Scotland and Europe, and they come to West Woods, which is the bluebell woods, and I tend to, because it's so busy, and I'm a bit of a loner. I tend to I found little spots out of the way that I don't have to go off the path.
Yeah.
They're just hidden out the way, but no, I don't trample on them because they don't come back. And I want to keep shooting them forever. The thing I find annoying is you go there for a family walk with my little one and that on a Saturday afternoon, and you'll see professional photographers taking images of that they're obviously getting paid for, the kids laying in the bluebells, and I just think, yeah, it's not something that sits very well with me, but what
we get the same thing in the lakes. Exactly the same thing in the lakes. The lakes have got a certain part of them where there's bluebells up on the fell side, and every year, guaranteed, you're going to get a stack of professional photographers turning up with a client.
Yeah,
I mean, is that I know a lot of photographers, they believe the same as you guys, that you really have to take care of nature. You can't just go trampling over it for a shot. But you say that you see people out there who do that. What's the kind of split? I mean, is it the norm to care, or is it the norm actually to just, I need to get this picture, or does it depend if it's a pro or an Instagrammer? You know, can you tell what that difference is?
I would like to think the pros would know best. I think it's normally people that are taking pictures on their phone, and they just want a picture that they've seen by another pro, and they don't know how to take. They don't know how to go about it. They don't even think about the stand on the blue bars. They just think, they'll come back next year. But yeah, I think education is the only tool that we have. I can't physically go and grab someone and say, you can't stand there. You know, all I can do is say, look, you shouldn't do that, really, mate. You know, because of this. And you can either tell me you get lost, or you might listen. But yeah,
Have you ever done
half
it?
the time they don't think about it, do they? Yeah.
Well, they don't.
No.
It just doesn't enter their brain. Yeah, unfortunately.
And you have to look at places like the Buckle in Scotland, and look at that area.
Oh, yeah.
Look at the area in front of it now. It's just like a marsh. It's completely trashed.
Well, they're going to put in a boardwalk there apparently now to try and rejuvenate the area. It's going to cost the government a lot of money to put this boardwalk in. It's sad that things have to get that way, isn't it?
Well, unfortunately,
it's the same in a lot of the kind of the honeypot spots, isn't it? And a lot of it is just people who, you know, they want to just get there, get the picture, get back. And I think you're right in that the people that take a bit more care are the ones that, you know, like you guys, more professional. You know, they care about the environment as much as they care about the photograph, which I think is kind of what we're needing these days. I mean, you guys obviously been at this quite a while, varying amounts of years and stuff. Not looking at you, Matt. If anyone's just kind of starting out, you know, maybe a bit younger than Tom, landscapes are their love. And we talked earlier on about, you know, YouTube's one of the things a lot of people do now. One-to-one workshops, kind of stuff people do now. It's not an easy kind of industry, for want of a better term, to make a living in. But would you have any advice for people setting out? You know, how do you separate yourself from the crowd if you do want to make a go at it? Or is it just a case of, you know, whatever it is that kind of is important to you? You know, what's your passion when it comes to landscapes? Is it being true to yourself, or do you just have to kind of go for as much as you can in terms of, you know, workshops, YouTubes, just trying to, you know, go for it? Basically, advice for young people who are kind of getting into landscapes. Whoever's got any wisdom on that.
Well, for me, just recently going into it, going full time, I think for me that you can't solely rely on landscape photography to make a living. Not now. You have to kind of branch out as much as possible. And a lot of it for me is video work. A lot of it is all three of us now work for Outdoor Photography Guide as well, and do a lot of work for companies like that, putting ourselves out there, putting content together for them. Again, with the workshops as well, that's another. It's all about revenue streams. It's about getting as many tentacles as you can.
It's not just one thing.
Definitely.
You can't just go out and sell a picture now. It's several things. It has to be.
No, there's very few photographers left that can actually achieve that, and anyone who's sort of is doing it to maintain it is not easy. A lot of people get burnout because it is very, very competitive market.
Yeah.
Look, I would think the best advice I could give to anyone who is contemplating going full time is definitely give it a try if you can risk it. At the same time, I think that you actually have to have something to offer. If you're a photographer that you don't think that you actually have something unique to offer, whether it's the area you live in, how well you know that location, how good you are as a photographer, and if you have your own style, for example, it's very, very hard. You know, people that try and get too ambitious too earlier on, I've found a lot of people get burnout because of that. So it's definitely not easy. A lot of people just sort of let it flow. Someone like me, for example, I have a full-time job and photography for me is part-time. I try and let the photography side of things go organically. So whatever happens. I don't try to push it, and it's satisfying when things work organically for sure. But anyone who wants to go at it full blow, like Paul is, for example. I mean, I look at Paul and I think it's fantastic. I'm so happy for him that he's gone down that road. But I think Paul made an intelligent decision at the time also, because he is a photographer with quite a bit of experience under his belt, and he does have something particular to offer, the area he lives, etc., the type of person he is. Yeah,
It's
definitely
bringing something unique to it. I mean, I've you know, a lot of photographers, they're not full-time pros. You know, their work comes out and you just assume that they are. You assume they're doing it all the time. But a lot of people are perfectly happy to have their full-time jobs and to you know, work around that and let it be a bit more of a hobby. It's less stressful. I'm assuming, Paul, you'll know there's a lot of people who have actually taken the plunge and decided to go full-time and realized, actually, I can't just be out in the hills taking pictures every day. It doesn't work like that.
It never works like that at all.
It does not work like that. I mean, how long have you been full-time with it?
Oh, probably 5 months, maybe now. 5 months, something like that. And it's just been 5 months of constant work. No weekends off, no days off. Every day is a new message, a new email. You spend more time in front of the computer screen than you do outside. And
not
you're
quite what you
wondering
anticipate.
you're wondering how you're going to get away from it to go and get something done, whether it be videos or images. But I still love it. I still absolutely love it. And that's the difference from my old job. I couldn't stand it anymore. And this is just a world away from it. Even though I'm working harder than I've ever worked, it's still so much more enjoyable.
Fantastic. Tom, are you full-time with it, or are you kind of working as well?
No, I'm well, as we all know, it is a full-time job. Whether you do it on my full-time, I have 2 full-time jobs.
It's a good way of looking at it, actually, mate. If you think about it, you would spend probably more time with the photography than you do with your 40-hour-week job, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, I see. Well, I'm contracted. So, I'm contracted to 50 hours during the summer. So I do 50 hours, and then I do till 1, sometimes 1, 2 in the morning, 3, 4 times a week.
Wow.
Doing this as well. So my ideal situation, I hope my boss isn't listening.
Hang on.
Is
check the chat.
Is to try and is to take days off work. That's the only way that look. Obviously, I would love to do what Paul's done. In my head, my heart, sorry, my head says that you've got a young family, you know, you've got a mortgage, and my job pays more than adequate. So, but yeah, if I could mix the two so I could say do 3-4 days a week and do 4, including the weekends, then I'm happy. Then and my wife will be happy because I can actually spend some time in the evenings.
That as well, that other full-time job. Looking ahead, guys. So, podcast-wise, you've obviously been going for what is it, nearly 2 years now? Have you got any kind of plans that are different from what you've been doing so far? Any kind of projects for that, or is it a case of just finding more great guests and kind of delving more into their world and pulling some new and exciting stuff out of them?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of all, isn't it? We're trying to kind of showcase people that don't really hit the radar quite as much as well.
Definitely, yeah.
And bring them more into the forefront, as well as when we eventually do get together. I mean, it would be really good to get some live stuff done as well as to do some podcasts from location when we can actually get together to work together. That would be fantastic.
Have the 3 of you in the same space.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah, definitely.
But definitely, we enjoy recording a podcast just between the 3 of us. You know, we pull out a subject that people might be interested to listening, you know, whether it's tripods, camera filters, or whatever it is, and we easily chat for an hour, and we've always got lots of information to share to the listeners. So it's great to mix that up between that and, you know, interviewing some big name photographers that maybe haven't done a podcast before that people want to hear, or some photographers that we know, some great guys. I mean, we interviewed a guy last night, which you'll hear about very, very soon, that not too many people know about, and he's a brilliant photographer. So we're excited to be able to bring them out and let people discover these new photographers. It's not just about giving exposure to these photographers that need it,
Mhm.
but it's about, saying to our audience, hey, go and check this guy out,
Yeah.
and then they see their images and they're like, wow, that's awesome. We found someone new
Mhm.
to go and look at, and we
Yeah.
would listen to them chat. So it's great for everyone, I think.
It's been hugely satisfying. I mean, I
Yeah.
found you guys on Apple Podcasts. Is it true that the videos go live as well? Is that right?
They
You
used
actually
to.
record this as
Used to,
a
yeah.
video.
Yeah, they used to. We stopped doing it because I was putting them on my YouTube channel, and it was having a detrimental effect on my YouTube channel.
That's not what you want to hear.
Well, it wasn't just that. Is
Yeah.
that I think when you're having like a long chat for an hour and a half or something, even if somebody wants to sit and watch it, it can be quite boring. So we did it for the first few videos. We did that, and then we decided just to go purely audio.
Yeah.
Because a lot more people have got the time when they're sitting in cars, vehicles, and
Exactly.
everything.
Yeah. So where can people actually find it then? Where can they get your kind of back catalogue of stuff and your new stuff?
Well, Apple Podcasts is a fantastic place to do it. We're on all the major podcast channels.
Spotify.
Yeah, all of them.
Mm.
If you just search Landscape Photography Vlogcast, will come up. And we've also got a Facebook page linked to it. So if you want want to put forward any ideas, or you want to hear about certain things like gear or certain topics, let us know in there, and we can get something.
Yeah,
together.
we're trying to let the listeners sort of give us feedback. You're the people that are listening. Tell us what you want to hear. So it's a great way of having the Facebook group too, for sure.
All right. Well, speaking of gear, the competition, guys, you are
Yes.
running a competition. Tell us all about it. Whoever knows.
Oh, hang on.
Well, basically, it's in with Kase Global. What's going on there?
You're back. You're back.
He's back.
Matt's just confusing everyone.
No,
with
don't
his
worry, don't
he
worry
does
about
that.
it. Yeah, I do that.
It's in collaboration with Kase Global, and the idea is we're going to drop a link in the chat and probably also in the YouTube description box as well. And basically, what we want you to do is come up with an idea for a Kase product, whatever it might be, to do with filters or regarding that sort of thing. Come up with an idea of a product. It's going to go live from today, which is the 23rd of January, to the 6th of February. And then the winner will be announced on the 20th of February. And we'll be picking out the winner out of all the submissions.
Yeah.
Okay. So there'll be a link in the chat. So that's the YouTube chat and the Facebook live chat for people to give their ideas on a new product that Kase can well, I'm not going to say develop, but certainly give them some ideas.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, and the prize is is it the Kase Armour system? Is that right?
Yeah, they can either win the Kase Armour system, or they can win the Pro magnetic system, I think, as well, the 82mm.
Yeah.
Whichever they want when they're fantastic. Well, I mean, 6th of Feb, plenty of time. I don't even know what that is. 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah,
couple of
something
weeks to enter. And did you say you're going to announce the winner on your podcast?
Yeah, we can do that around on the 20th of February. I think it's going live.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, that's a brilliant prize. I know. I mean, speaking, better do this very quickly. Top filters, guys. You guys obviously all use filters in your landscape work. Kase ambassadors. What's your gonna go-to filter just before we finish up?
Ooh. My most filter will be a polarizer every time. I love the dark CPLs as well, though. The polarizer with the ND built in.
Okay.
I think they're fantastic for what I do.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, the same. Yeah, can't live without a CPL. Well, you can, but when it's applied in the correct conditions, it's a filter that you cannot live without in photography for sure.
Yeah, and something you can't really replicate. But yeah, I'm the same.
No, you can't.
CPL is a must for me. Even if I don't use it, it's always on there, and I'm generally using it in some capacity. Yeah, definitely.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we've gone slightly over time, ever so slightly, but I think we've done pretty well.
That's odd, isn't it?
Never happens.
No.
For three of you, I think we've done pretty decent.
It was that extra 4 minutes because I went blah 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 for 4 minutes and
that's
caused it to go over. Yeah.
That's what it was. It's whatever Matt's got in his cup there. He says it's green tea, but I'm not entirely convinced.
No, it's green tea. Seriously. Because I haven't said the F word once today, so it's not.
You know what? That's success. Well, listen, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ruth. It was lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, you too. It's really good to meet all you guys. And our first Kase Filters Global session gone pretty well, I would say. And thanks to everybody in the chat as well.
Thank you,
there
guys.
on
Thanks,
Facebook
everyone.
Yeah,
and
cheers, guys.
on YouTube as well. As I said at the beginning, if you missed it, you can catch this again. I think just after we finish up, it should be available pretty soon after on Kase Filters Global's YouTube and Facebook pages. So check that out. You can rewatch. You can share that with whoever you want to. I will be back on Sunday, the 20th of February, with Tomas Schuhojen, which I think is how you pronounce his name, who is a fantastic. I researched this. It took me a while. I had to practice. I won't show you how it was actually spelled, but I'm hoping that's how you say it. Tomas, anyway, he's a fantastic mountain photographer based in Poland, so very much looking forward to chatting with him. So join me for that if you want. Same places, the YouTube page there or Facebook Live. But until then, thank you again, guys, for giving up your evenings and nights, Matt. And it was later over in Italy. And thanks. Thanks to everybody in the chat. So yeah, have a good night. Until next time.
And you. Bye.
Thanks everyone for your comments. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great to see you all. Bye.
Bye.